You're listening to the New World to Go podcast with your hosts, Redbyrd and BDLG.
Hello and welcome to another episode of New World to Go. I'm your host, Redbyrd, and with me is BDLG. Bordy. What a week, dude. It's been crazy, man. Preview week is upon us, and it's way overwhelmed, I think, anything that we ever thought it would be.
Yeah, it's been absolutely incredible, man. In terms of feedback and response for all of the work we put in, it's been insane, man. It's been a very, I don't even know how to put it into words, man. It's been an incredible experience over the past, 5-6 days.
Dude, it's been insane. We're going to have a crazy episode for you guys, going through and kind of stepping back and looking at the preview event. I know it's still going on, but we got a lot of things to talk about for you guys. We're going to have an episode this week. Obviously, we're recording it right now. And then next week, we're also going to do another episode. We're going to be back on the weekly grind for you guys, covering this information, just so you know. So let's start off here, Bordy. Generally, this event has exceeded anything that we have even, I think, hoped for. So tons of people are on Twitter, on Twitch, everywhere, having a lot of positive feedback about the game. So what were your initial impressions of how the preview event has went so far?
I've been blown away, man. I didn't really know what to expect in terms of feedback from people, because there's been a lot of negativity surrounding the game for so long that I didn't know what people would do whenever they actually got in and started playing. But people have gotten in and they played, and I think for the most part, people have really, really enjoyed themselves, and they can't get enough of the game. I know there are people out there who don't like the combat, who don't really like the things that are going on, and that's understandable, because New World's combat is so incredibly different than anything else that's out there right now, and so it takes some getting used to, and it's not nearly we'll get into that here in just a minute, I guess, about the combat and whatever, but overall, man, it's been incredible. I did not expect this, to be honest with you. I maybe thought it would be a little half and half mixed, maybe, reviews. I didn't really know. I personally really like the game, so I was hoping that this would happen, and man did it, dude. It's been awesome.
I'm with you, dude. Okay, so we've been in the community for quite some time. This is episode 30, if you could, we've been recording a weekly episode for quite a while, over a half a year now. And so we've had a lot of time to digest the information, be part of the community, and what you're saying is 100% accurate. There was a ton, and not everybody, a lot of people saw the potential in the game and what it could become, how different it was than other MMOs. But generally, there was a lot of negative feedback, and we think, because of the delay, because of maybe the pivot that they did in the direction of the game. We've talked about those things ad nauseum on this podcast, so we're not going to talk about that tonight. But the way that people have embraced this game, the environment, Eternum, we can freely talk about the game now, which is extremely exciting for me. And I know you feel the same way too. So we're going to go into depth about New World, our opinions on it and everything like that. But my initial impression of this event is I'm just like, it makes me feel good, dude. Me and you saw the potential in this game with how different it was compared to other MMOs, and it's just nice to see that other people see it too, man. And it's been great to see all the positive press that they've been getting on Twitter and Twitch and all of those platforms. And man, I'm ecstatic to be part of this, a part of this game in the community right now.
Yeah, I echo that 100%, man, for sure.
So, before we get started, guys, we are obviously part of Studio Loot. You guys hear that at the end of every podcast. You see it on the VODs and everything like that. But our website for New World is newworldfans.com. So go check that out. We just today got put up a new map, an interactive map there to tie along with all of our guides and all of our content over there. We have a database. We have a Discord bot, a Twitter bot that tracks the devs. Our buddy Taken, our third person in the three-way partnership that we have. is amazing at programming. Me and you, I speak for myself, and you, I think too. We both know nothing about anything that has to do with that kind of stuff. And Taken has been awesome. We've been working together, and you should go check out the site. Go check out the map. All the tools over there are extremely useful, and we got one coming, and we can talk about it on this episode, dude. We got a builder, a character builder coming, dude. So if you guys want to theory craft your characters and build out your characters after the preview event or near the end of the preview event, go check out that builder. It should be live soon. And Taken's probably going to wake up and just cuss me as soon as he listens to this this podcast, but soon, hashtag soon or TM or whatever you want to whatever meme you want to use. We're going to have that up for you guys, and you'll be able to at max level build out your guy statistically with your gear, your jewels, your skills, abilities, all of that stuff on the builder. newworldbuilds.com. That's the announcement, man. We just made that's exclusive to this podcast. Anybody in chat right now just got the DL, dude.
Breaking news, man. Breaking news. I just want to tag on real quick and say something about the website quickly. Is that the response and the overwhelming positive feedback we've got from the website too, and the amount of traffic that thing has seen has been mind-blowing, man. So I just wanted to throw a quick thank you out there to everybody who's utilized the tools that we've put out there. It's been a lot of work creating all of the guides, and Taken's been pumping out a lot of tools, and have been doing a lot of work on that thing over the past several months. So it's just awesome that it's been as received as positively as it has been. So thank you for that.
Yes, from the bottom of our hearts, literally, it's been an amazing week, and you guys are a massive part of that. The podcast, the website, it's been just beyond anything we ever expected. And we thank you guys for that. We appreciate your guys' support. So, as we always plug as well, we got our company finally in the game, dude. The Discord's alive, and we got people in there playing underneath the Revenant tag, dude. And it's been a lot of fun, man. We've had pretty decent-sized groups to run around with every night, doing portals, doing PvP. It's been amazing. And again, having an MMO to play with other people that's new, that's fun, that it's exciting to explore the world with, it's like one of the best experiences to me that you can have in gaming. Yeah,
absolutely, dude. I was so ready to get in there and play with the people in the Discord that haven't had a chance to play it yet, just to see what their feedback was, and just to be able to play the game with them, because there's been a lot of people that have joined our Discord and our community specifically just for New World, and so we haven't really been able to game with them with anything else. And so it's been an awesome experience to jump in there and be able to enjoy this preview with them up to this point. And I've had an absolute blast, man, hanging out with the community and playing with them, going and questing with them, and just it's been awesome, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah, dude. And that's the thing, man. We try to dance around. We don't want to like break NDA or anything like that. We obviously want to work with Amazon as we spend so much time covering their game, and we didn't want to like we try very hard on the podcast, in our content, in the Discord, to stay spoiler free. And a lot of the people in the Discord obviously have questions about the game. It's finally here the time where we get to experience this stuff with them and share those share the goods and the bads with New World with them entirely. And it's been an amazing week. Like I said, I think overwhelmingly positive feedback from people that are in our Discord within our company that play games with us on a regular basis. Everybody's having fun, and it's awesome to see. So we're gonna start talking about actual topics here. We again thank you guys for hanging with us and listening. It's just finally good to be able to clear those things up and talk to you guys about all that stuff that we're doing surrounding New World, because before we couldn't. I mean, we basically had to keep it all under wraps, but it's good to be out about that. Also, we get to talk about the combat now, Bordy, which is one of the things that, I think we both share the same feeling. One of our favorite things about New World, both of us. So we're going to break down the combat. We know it's not perfect, and we're going to talk a little bit about that right now. Maybe some changes that Amazon can kind of look into as far as changes in the way combat works. And go through the details for you guys. If you are not in the preview access, this should be a pretty eye-opening or like, you know, informational discussion about New World, the combat, and how it works in the game. So first, Bordy, and this is something I think we both agree on as well, the cooldown system. So we can finally talk about that, something that me and you, this is like our main bone to pick with the combat. Again, generally we love the combat in New World, but this is one of the problems that we have, and it's the global cooldown system. So Bordy, let's get your take on how this works in New World.
Yeah, so the global cooldown system in this game, man, is not one of my favorite things. And like you said, the combat I love it, man. I've been having a blast in the game. I've been having a blast in PvE and PvP. It's been so good, in my opinion. The combat is a little bit slower compared to a lot of MMOs, but that's exactly how it's supposed to be. I think that's how it's designed. It's not a button mashing, let's spam abilities and build our character around a ton of abilities type of combat. It's much slower, much more player and skill driven. So the cooldowns, though, are kind of one of my biggest qualms. There's two things: the cooldowns and the number of weapons you get. You get 3. I think you should only get 2, in my opinion. But the cooldowns are global. So whenever you have your weapons equipped, you can have 3 active abilities on your bar at a time. And so, say for example, you have a life staff, a hatchet, and a sword and shield. Whenever you press your Q ability, if it has a 20-second cooldown, that 20-second cooldown is shared among all 3 weapons. So if you press it for your main weapon, say that's a sword and shield, and then you switch over to your hatchet, you still can't use your Q for your hatchet. I don't really particularly like that, man, because it just takes away from the whole point in switching bars, I think. Like, why don't we just have one weapon at that point if we're going to share cooldowns, other than having like some kind of utility to use with those other weapons. And I think what we're seeing right now in the game is that a lot of people are running kind of the same builds because the choices aren't limited enough, because you can have 3 weapons. And so just kind of, I don't know, the global cooldown thing, man, it's I don't particularly enjoy it. So I hope that's one of the things that change upon release.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you know, it doesn't make a lot of sense traditionally in most MMOs anyways. The whole reason that you know, this newer wave of MMOs have added like bar swapping and everything in the game is to reduce the amount of skills that you have to manage, but also allow, you know, someone to to swap to your back bar and have now a new cooldown system that you can manage with a different weapon. So it's really cool because we're so used to playing MMOs where like your class is locked into one weapon, and it's really cool to be able to, now all of a sudden I get to choose 2 weapons to wield with my class, and I'm kind of building out a character that's very unique, that's very, you know, that plays the way that I want it to play, and it gives me access to all of these new skills and abilities that are tied with that weapon. The problem with New World's combat is it kind of like, it's kind of like the global cooldown system like reduces the amount of fun that's involved with the entire bar swapping, you know, feature, because not only like, you know, and this is oftentimes the case, for instance, like the light staff. Everybody's using the light staff for the mobility spell right now. They don't really care about healing. They just use it. It's basically a mount in the game. But if I use that ability to use it, like to close the gap in combat, and I have any other skill assigned to my other weapon, then that skill is unusable on my sword and shield, on my bow, on my musket, or whatever. And so then I find myself in a lot of awkward positions where like I swap weapons, but all my skills are on cooldown now, and I can't technically use them. Now, I know they don't want ability spamming, and I can get behind that 100%. I do not like, you know, and Elder Scrolls Online has this type of combat where basically you can get away with just spamming one ability all the time. And I don't want that. I understand that there's a lot of strategy in combat right now with positioning and attacking, everything like that, and we're going to go into that later. But the cooldown system to me doesn't make a ton of sense, and I'm with you too. Let's see what it looks like when maybe we have just 2 weapons, but then there's not global cooldowns where I can swap and manage those skills on my back bar and then swap back and then manage those cooldowns as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think the problem with having 3 weapons, man, is exactly what you just said, that everybody's running the life staff just for the utility of that weapon. And I think with the way this game works, in my mind, I don't see the reason to have 3 weapons at any given time, because in combat, you're never going to switch to those 3 weapons unless you're using your 3rd weapon specifically for utility, like the dash. Like the life staff, nobody is going to heal with that thing if they're not spec'ing into intelligence, but everybody runs it. I don't think that should be the case, man. That should be a item that specifically a mage or a ranged character is using to create distance or to gap close, or not to gap close, but maybe to create distance so they can turn around and shoot and dish out damage. I don't. What is happening now in the game is that everybody has very similar builds because you can run 3 bars, and so most people are running 2 melee and then the life staff. And so everybody that you fight has the life staff, and I don't think that's very good overall for the game. I am a huge proponent of having a lot of diversity in builds, and right now we are not seeing that. And I think part of the reason we're not seeing that is because of the 3 weapons and because of the way cooldowns work. Because your abilities, the way the game works, though, you're not using a lot of abilities, and you shouldn't. I think the game is more around player skill and using your abilities wisely, but you should have the option to use the abilities on your back bar, I think. So I would like to see some of those things changed, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The idea of having all these weapons is to create, I think, player choice. A lot of different ways you can build your character, but almost inevitably in any MMO, there's going to be a meta. And then you're literally, those choices are going to be made for the characters just like they are in the preview event, where now the only way to get around the world, basically, is you got to have a life staff, or else you're kind of not doing it right? I mean, it increases your mobility by so much that it allows you to escape a fight. If you're in a fight with somebody and you get the upper hand and they have a life staff and you don't, they're gone. You're not getting that kill because they are literally so far away from you at that point that there's no catching up. So, as an offensive weapon, you got to run a life staff because you got to chase people down that are trying to run away from you. Defensively, if you get a 3v1 and people are getting ready to kill you, if you don't have a life staff on, then you're not getting away. But if you do, then it increases your chances very significantly of exiting a bad situation. So not only on top of the thing that it's literally just like a good way to get across the map when you're trying to go from destination to destination, combat or not. So then you look at those things and it's going to be really hard to balance things around that, to where at least people are probably going to pick 2 weapons that they want to use in combat, a melee weapon and a ranged weapon most of the time, I think. And then they'll have that utility weapon. And I would bet that utility weapon, that 3rd slot, is going to be relatively the same for every character, just based off of the utility of the weapon.
Yeah, absolutely. Which leaves to little diversity, which I don't think we want to have in the game. I want to see a diverse range of builds, even though there is typically a meta that develops, and I understand that. But I would like to try to mitigate that as much as possible, I would like for them to try to mitigate that as much as possible, because right now it doesn't seem to be headed in that direction. So what about the number of abilities that you get on your bar? Because you get 3 for each weapon. Do you think that's enough, or do you think we need more in New World?
Real quick, I want to note this because they did come out with this news this week during the preview event. They are adding more weapons to the game, so don't think that we're overlooking the fact that there are going to be more weapons, and that will obviously change the diversity in the game. But we're talking about once those weapons are even, there will still, with the 3 weapon system, how it will affect combat. And to your question, Bordy, I think 3's fine. I would like to see more choices for each weapon. So right now it's basically 6 choose 3, right? There's 6 abilities on each skill tree, and you have to choose 3 of those. So you're basically choosing half. Even if they added a 3rd tree for each weapon in this, just having 7 weapons alone would diversify the level, as long as they're balanced, of course, the amount of skills you're seeing from each character. Now, if they do that and they double the weapon sizes, which seems very plausible, it sounds like that's their plan to do, is at least double the amount of weapons in the game, then you start looking at some very unique, diverse builds. When you're having 9 skills, you're having to choose those down to 3. and then you're having to choose 2 or 3 weapons out of the 21 or however many that they're going to add. 14, I guess, would be double right now. Then, that all is moving in the positive favor of diversity. But yeah, I'm okay with the 3 abilities because I think and we all kind of understand this. Their idea is behind making even basic attacks and positioning and blocking and parrying and dodging, all of those things very significant in combat, and reducing the amount of abilities that we have are a good way to do that for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen a lot of people complain about that very thing because they're used to MMOs having just a ton of abilities, right? They're used to building out their character based on the abilities and getting a good combo system going and getting like these abilities that synergize well with one another, which you can still do in New World. There are abilities you get that synergize well with one another, and you still can build your character out like that, but it's not about your abilities. Exactly what you said. You hit the nail on the head saying that it's more about player skill. They don't want this to be a spamming ability type of game. And it is fully possible for you to take all the abilities off your bar and kill someone that has all of their abilities on their bar strictly by movement and auto attacking, which I think is awesome. I personally really, really like it. And I don't think we need any more than 3. I think 3 is the perfect amount for that. Just give us 2 bars, no global cooldowns, keep the 3 abilities and move on. And I'm with you too. I think that adding more ability, maybe another tree to each weapon would be fine. But whenever they add the multiple weapons, maybe that won't be a problem either. Like whenever we get all of the other weapons in the game, that probably won't be as big of a deal either. But I'm all for adding more abilities and more diversity, man. I like that a lot. So we'll see what happens. I hope this is one of the things that they kind of look at really hard and kind of adjust. And I kind of feel like they will now that they see that literally every player in the game has a life staff on their back.
And a hatchet.
And a hatchet. Surely they'll look at that and say, okay, maybe we don't need 3 bars, or maybe we need to address this and fix this. So I would think surely they would figure that out somehow, right?
Well, I mean, and even you look at the current meta. I mean, if you want to call it a meta, it's a preview event, but the meta is basically hatchet and life staff, and then whatever the heck else you want to use. Mm-hmm. But the thing is if there was only 2 weapon slots, then what happens? Well, then all of a sudden now I can kind of counter that build with a musket or a bow and a life staff because I can now kite that hatchet player away from me, and that's where it starts to, like, when you start to force choices, it starts to increase diversity and like counterplay and everything like that. But if everybody can choose the same thing all the time, which is the problem sometimes with a classless system, well, then you're going to get a meta where literally everybody's using the same weapons all the time. And because there's just 3 good ones. And that goes back to where like the 6 skill tree or the 6 skills, and it's almost definitely, if anybody, rather you're just having fun and selecting skills, and I think there are people out there that play that way 100%. But most people, if they're gonna ask you, hey, what's your build? And then you're gonna say, oh, you got to use these 3 skills as a streamer, as a content creator. And then most people are gonna run that build because it's optimal. Like, how do I play Hatchet well? Oh, you got to have Berserk. And then literally everybody playing Hatchet has Berserk on because, like, there isn't a lot of diversity in the skills that you can choose. So it doesn't make sense for me to use the suboptimal ones. And they've mentioned that as well. Again, we're not pretending like they haven't like acknowledged these as problems, because they have. They need to make another pass on the skills and everything like that in the skill trees. They've mentioned that before, and I do believe they will.
Yeah, which I think is one of the reasons the game was delayed. But I'm going to go back to your point here for a second about kiting people around that you made. Right now, as if you went full ranged right now in the current state of the game, if you went musket and bow or something similar like that, or like you, I know you're using musket a lot. Well, that really almost puts you at a disadvantage, because if you're way far away and you're trying to snipe somebody with a musket, doesn't really matter, because guess what? All they have to do is equip their life staff and dash to you, and then they gap close, and then they can just stun you, and then they're on you, right? So using the musket, you got to have some sort of way to maintain your range and kite people around. And right now, we don't really have that. So those things have to be addressed.
Yeah, and I think, interestingly enough, the problem may be a little bit deeper, because here's the thing is the blink doesn't require you to have any intellect at all. So you look at a life staff or a fire staff as an intellect weapon, but you have the skills and abilities on there that can be used for a utility, which is fine. That's kind of makes things interesting build-wise. But there's literally no downfall for specking into strength or dexterity and not addressing the fact that typically the staff uses intellect to be strong. Like, maybe the simple fix is like the distance of that you can dash is dependent upon your intellect stat or something like that. I don't know. But that's just an interesting thing is some of the skills do tie to all your weapons. Like the sword and shield skill tree has a note on it that says plus 5% to all like damage of all your weapons. So those make the choices very interesting. But at the same time, if they're, we're kind of beating a dead horse at this point, I guess. But that takes the choice out of it because like, oh, well, if I get 5% damage across the board, like why wouldn't I? If I have a third slot, why wouldn't I just use that weapon slot that I'm really not using in combat no matter what and just use it to get 5% more damage and just keep it on my back bar all the time?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. It's going to be interesting. Overall, though, man, I really have enjoyed the combat in the game. Even with these things, even with everybody running kind of the same or similar builds, I have had an incredible amount of fun in both PvE and PvP, and we've gotten a ton of PvP. It's been fun, man. I've enjoyed the heck out of it so far.
Absolutely. PvP is very skilled. It feels really rewarding when you beat someone in PvP. And we're being a little nitpicky, and that's kind of what we're covering the show. So it's like, we want to talk about these things with you guys. Obviously, there's always room for improvement, but generally, we do like the combat system and how it works out in game. I've had a ton of fun this week, man. There's tons of people flagged up, which we're going to talk about here now. How is the flagging system working? This was a big question in the community because they went away from the PvP side of things and made PvP opt-in. So now with the population base that we have right now, and we get to kind of see the flagging system at work, Bordy, what's your initial take on people being able to opt in for PvP for these PvP missions?
Dude, I think it's fine because whenever you're running PvP missions, man, you know where those missions are taking place a lot of times. So whenever you go there, you're going to get PvP. And then out in the open world, dude, I've been stepping out into the open world and not even doing PvP missions, but I've been flagged ever since I could flag, and I never take my flag off. So if I'm just out in the world doing anything, farming, doing whatever, there is so much PvP to be had. Like to me, it's not even a concern. The flagging system and the amount of open world PvP you're getting, it's not even a concern. At least on the server we're playing on. I don't know how it is across every server, but the server we're playing on, man, has been incredible. There's no lack of PvP. I'm PvPing constantly in the open world, and I couldn't be more pleased. It's awesome. So I would say that the flagging system is working just fine. It's working as intended.
Yeah, dude, there is a large percentage of people that stay flagged all the time. And you know what? Where this system excels at, Bordy, because we have people in our Discord that hate PvP, basically. Mm-hmm. They don't have to do it. They can literally unflag, go out, gather the stuff they want to use for their crafting. They can go out and fight PvP mobs to level up, and they don't have to worry about the people that will camp a spawn of a portal or, go into like a boss room and try to camp there with their flag to try to prevent other people from killing it. That's where the system excels. It can also cause problems though, because, a lot of the times when you're in these contested zones and there is a lot of PvP, guess who wins in that environment? The person that doesn't have to deal with the PvP. Yeah, so they get to do the portal while we're killing each other, and they're like in a boss room. They get to kill the boss while us flagged people are just murdering each other. So yeah, it causes problems and it solves problems at the same time. But generally, I think it's a very interesting route that they took, and I think it's it's kind of working, man. Because a lot of the PvE people, they'll unflag or not flag at all, and they'll go do their thing, and they're happy, and then I'm happy because I'm getting to go out in PvP all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't had too many issues yet of where I'm trying to fight somebody for a portal, and then the people that aren't flagged are getting it. I have ran into that or a breach, rather, a corrupted breach. I have ran into that once or twice where we're kind of PvPing and then we finish our fight and then the portals or the breach is over. And then there has been a couple times where we have been fighting over a boss during a PvP mission, and then the non-flagged guy just goes in there and kills the boss, and then we don't get to kill it or whatever. But overall, that hasn't been a huge issue, but I could see that maybe potentially being an issue at some point. But Hopefully they'll have some way of mitigating that if it becomes a problem. Right now, I don't. It hasn't been like a huge issue for me though. The times that it happened, it was like I was so enthralled in wanting to PvP anyway. Like I was having so much fun fighting other people that I honestly didn't even care at that point about completing the breach or completing what. I just wanted to kill the person and then move on. You know, like I was having so much fun PvP and I didn't really care. You know, and that's why I flag up, because I want those fights in the open world. And so I think that's the trade-off though, right? Like you get the PvP, but you may not get to finish the breach or whatever, you know?
Yeah, and maybe the amount of increased experience needs to be looked at a little bit to entice more people to flag or not flag. You know, the 10% maybe isn't quite enough to supplement the fact that the PvE players don't have to deal with PvP during their grind or whatever. But that can all be looked at and relatively easy adjusted. I want to talk about this because you mentioned this. Last night, we were in a group, me and some people in the company, and we had this awesome engagement, man. We were in this zone that was under invasion. The portals were popping up in this field, and us, a syndicate group, and the Marauder group were like at a standstill, bro. We were on a rock, like kind of aiming up towards them. They were on a cliff. We were both waiting for the portal to spawn. Neither one of us were engaging each other necessarily, except for like some ranged attacks. But we were both waiting, and we knew that the looming portal spawn was going to cause us to kind of have to go into battle and kill each other to get the boss down. And it was a lot of fun, dude. It created a really unique experience in game that you wouldn't find in most MMOs. It was just cool. It was like a standoff sort of thing. It was really fun, man. And this type of situation, the open world PvP, really adds something to a game where, you know, there's always not only are you have to worry about that giant grizzly bear that will murder you in like 2 swipes, but you have to worry about some guy, like as you're dodging the grizzly bear, run up behind you and start killing you. It's a ton of fun, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are the moments that make that stuff worth it, man. That's dope. Last night I get this question asked a lot too, is like how solo friendly is New World. So last night I decided to kind of go out and do a little bit of solo play myself, and you guys were having fun in the group, and man, I can tell you that it's incredibly solo. I was flagged the entire time too, and I never really got zerged down. I did get into like some 1v3s, 1v4 situations, but there was never like these huge groups. And I think that's partly because they limit the group size to 5. You know, they limit your group size to 5, which I like. I enjoy that because there's not a ton of zergs, like huge groups running around. And I had a lot of fun going out and playing solo. Now I would rather be playing with my company, obviously, because I enjoy hanging out with those guys. We have a great group of people, but I just wanted to try to experiment for one night of this preview and show on stream that it is incredibly viable to do that. And so you can go play solo. For all the solo players out there, I think that it's 100% possible and a whole lot of fun to do that as well.
Yeah, you know, and then we're going to talk a little bit about this. So one of the things, and this kind of ties the PvP into combat, they really need to look at is the, you know, some of the stun locking or the staggering of attacks. That's one of the things that really kind of hurts PvP, in my opinion. Is a lot of the times you'll find that you're not going to get a chance to attack in some situations, and they do have to look at that. But generally, the PvP, the open world PvP, is a lot of fun. It creates some really unique environments or situations in game that can't be duplicated in other games that kind of limit PvP to instant type of content. So, Bordy, the next thing we're going to talk about is PvE content. So this is something that I've, you know, we both have had a lot of discussions about as we stream the game this week, and obviously we talk to each other about the game constantly. Is there enough content in PvE? And New World has technically came out and said no. They said one of the reasons that we've delayed the game was to add mid to late game content for the game. They recognized the void and they listened to the player feedback from the alpha and everything like that, and they said that no, there's not enough PvE content. So, Bordy, tonight, you know, we've talked about this on the show before, but now we can completely 100% openly discuss what's in the game versus what maybe the game needs to have in it. So initially, or now that you can, you know, 100% give your opinion on the PvE content, what are your thoughts as far as, you know, maybe what the game is lacking in the PvE section?
Yeah, I think there definitely needs to be more for those players. I've been so concerned with PvP because I'm flagged all the time, and that's what I enjoy doing. But if I was not flagging up and I was just strictly going out and doing PvE content, it's definitely lacking in that department. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it and say it's not, because the quests are they definitely can get a little bit redundant. And then the really about your only options for PvE content right now is going out open world, which is cool. There's some open world bosses that's really fun. I mean, the PvE and the combat, we talked about that already and how fun the combat is. But at the end of the day, man, you're going around and just killing these open world bosses and killing just mobs out in the open world. That's really it until you get to an invasion. And then once you do the invasions are fun, but that's not a constant stream of content that you can do all the time. Those are only happen every now and then. And then you have your arenas, and then the arenas are really hard to get a key to do those. Those are just the big raid boss that you go in with a group of 5 people and you kill him to get loot. And it's just the boss. That's all you do is kill the boss. So I think that, mid to late game PvE content is definitely something they need to look at. There are breaches too. You can do breaches, but as we both know, those can and do get quite repetitive after you do so many of them. So there definitely needs to be some diversity there to keep people interested for those PvE players. And I think that there are a ton, we both know there's a ton of PvE players in MMOs that just love to do that type of content. So I fully understand why they delayed, and I fully agree that there needs to be more content of that nature in the game.
Yeah, and really, it can be a driving factor again with like points of interest and everything. It can a lack of PvE content can really hurt the PvP community as well, because the way you progress, the way you level up, things like that. As you kind of we played quite a bit of New World at this point. You start to notice that it is lacking when you get to the end game and you realize, like, what am I going to do? Well, there isn't a ton to do right now because of, you have sieges, and you have the two in-game features right now in the game are sieges and invasions. The problem with those two things being your primary in-game features are they're timed. So I can't go out and participate in a siege at any moment, in any day, at any time. Same goes with an invasion. So I think as far as what they need to focus on PvE-wise, they need to get more, and I guess sieging is technically PvP, so that can even be counted as an in-game PvE feature. So what they really need to focus on is open world stuff that people can participate in on a regular basis that provides some sort of progression. Maybe that's raid, maybe that's instance dungeons, maybe and they stagger those out at different levels to where to give you a little bit of a break between grinding portals and doing PvE missions or doing PvP missions. Throw in a dungeon here or there, like between each 10 levels or whatever. Maybe it's an instance raid. I know people hate to hear the word instance raid in a game like this because it's very open and feels very alive. The world does, and maybe they can do there have been games that have provided open world raiding situations before where they just make the mobs so hard to deal with in a 5-man group that you have to go in there with more people, right? Or maybe, or make the mobs extremely difficult to kill where you have to have 5 people to go into the room or into the cave. Things like that they can get very creative with, and I think they should definitely look into. But I do think, and we both agree on this, they got to find something to provide more content for players, because at this rate, once you get to end game, I think a lot of people would decide that there isn't a whole lot to do to keep them there, to make them feel like they're progressing, and then they'll leave.
Right, exactly. And you're right that both of the main in-game content pieces right now, invasions and sieges, are both timed. So whenever you do make it to end game, it's going to be a situation where all these people get to max level right now, and then all they do is log in to go do an invasion or a siege, and then they log back out because there's not really a lot else to do. And that's just not good for the game overall, and they're very aware of that, and that's why they delayed the game. So it'll be interesting, and I'm very excited to see what news they drop on us to tell us what kind of in-game content they're coming out with to keep people engaged, because right now that's where the game is lacking severely. Up to that point, man, even really mid-game, you mentioned adding dungeons every 10 levels. I think that's great. That's awesome. But I think the bigger issue is really your end game content, and not necessarily getting to in game. Getting there, it's awesome to have that content to do, but at the end of the day, you're only going to run the level 10 dungeon a couple times, right? You're only going to run the level 20 dungeon a couple times. It's whenever you get to the end game that you need content that you can repeat that's constant versus just sieges or just invasions. So I'm excited to see what they come up with, man. I have had an absolute blast in this game, and I'm going to be very sad when it's over. Very sad when it's over.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think will make a big difference, and who knows, they may have already like worked on this and added it, but something very odd to me about New World that keeps people going, that keeps people progressing after they reach like the max level is gear scores. And for some reason, in New World, they stop at tier 5 at level 50, and there's still 10 more levels to go. So I would expect to see them add some sort of like in-game gear grind that you can increase your item level, like maybe with like a tier 6 at max level. Because right now you stop at level 50, tier 5, and that's like the best gear you can get. That just, you're not using your in-game efficiently at that point, I don't think. So I'd like to see, this is very specific, but I would like to see them add another tier of weapon at in-game that allows you to progress even further along.
Yeah, tier 6 at level 60. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost got to be in the game, because if I can get all the gear that I want at level 50, then like what is my incentive to continue to progress other than like leveling up, of course. But everybody, like most people play MMOs to get that big improvement in your gear when you get that drop, or your friend is able to craft you a new piece of gear that's a big upgrade, and you lose that at level 50. So I definitely would like to see them specifically add an in-game tier of gear to the game as well.
Yeah, I think that would be one way to have a little bit more activity in the end, is once you hit level 60, then you have to, not only do you grind to level 60, but then after you hit 60, then you have to go get geared after that, which helps. I think that definitely helps keep players engaged for at least a little while longer anyway,
Yeah, for sure. All right, dude. Well, it's been fun, man, to briefly go over this preview event. Obviously, in the weeks to come, we're going to be breaking down all this stuff in detail for you guys, but we definitely wanted to just give our overall impressions this week, because we were just kind of blown away by everything that's happened with the website and the podcast and New World in general. It's been great, man. So yeah, it's great to be in front of you guys, talking about New World and not having to hold any punches. We're thoroughly enjoying the game. We think the future of the game is very, very bright, and we're excited to be part of the community. All right, Bordy. So we'll see you next week, right? We're going to record another episode then. Yeah. And why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet?
Yeah, absolutely. So just real quick, we have been recording episodes every other week, but I don't know. I know we're recording one next week, Red. I guess we can announce it next week as to what we're going to do after that. But I know we're going to for sure record one next week, so we can look forward to that. But anyway, you can find me on Twitter at the BDLG. You can find me over on YouTube. It's youtube.com/thebdlg. I've been dropping a lot of New World videos over there as the course of this preview event progresses. Then you can find me over on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/BDLG. There's no the in front of that one, just twitch.tv/BDLG. I've been streaming a ton of New World over there, typically starting about 9:30 p.m. CST. It's been a whole heck of a lot of fun. Been having a blast. And of course, creating content for StudioLoot.com, which encompasses NewWorldFans.com, which we have been working incredibly hard on and have a lot of awesome content over there. We have the interactive map that Taken just updated today, which was amazing. The dude's a wizard. And then, oh yeah, before we forget to mention it, Red, Twitter is twitter.com/Studio Loot. That's going to be our new Twitter account going forward for all of the games we're covering and for everything we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. Studio Loot, and I like to be transparent about this because I think a lot of people ask or question. Studio Loot is literally me, BDLG, and our buddy Taken. He's in chat. He just showed up. He just woke up and it's coming to us live from Spain. So it's just us three, and it's hard for us as three people to manage all of the social media accounts we have. So we're combining them all in one. You get your guys' updates from everything that we do content-wise there. So definitely follow that on Twitter. I'm Redbyrd with a Y. You can find me at Twitch and YouTube under the same name, as well as Twitter. I am Redbyrd. But again, if you're going to follow one account from any of us, follow the Studio Loot account, because that's where you're going to get all your updates and on any of the content that we do. Guys, and I can't stress this enough. Go check out newworldfans.com. The map is amazing. We just got that up today, fully fleshed out. Again, thanks to Taken's hard work. And we got all kinds of content, and we're going to keep going, guys. So if you want to keep and stay hyped about New World through the gap between the preview event and the launch, come to New World Fans. We're going to be putting up tons of stuff over there, some new stuff, some new content to digest as we get ready and move towards that date. Thank you guys for listening so much. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review on the podcast. It helps us a lot when it comes to searchability, and we're thankful for those of you who have and do continue to listen to our podcast. So thank you. It's been great. It's been fun. We can't wait to meet you guys on another episode of New World to Go next week.